Welcome to UpBringing. We're
I
Hannah
wasn't
and
ready
Kelty.
yet, but sorry.
Okay, you can go.
Okay.
We're rolling. We're doing this thing.
Okay, I'm ready.
These are empowerment episodes. This is our first Power Of. It's
Right.
kind of exciting.
The power of parenting is the
sounds
episode
very
today.
general.
We're starting small, you guys. Baby steps.
Super specific.
Yeah. Well, we always introduce ourselves in case this is the first time you're watching this video or listening to this on the podcast. But we're Hannah and Kelty, twins, mothers, works in progress. And UpBringing is our podcast and video series where we're really just working on trying to get comfortable around the most uncomfortable parts of parenting, because we believe that that is where the growth, the joy, the fulfillment lies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And these empowerment episodes are usually either a Dear UpBringing, where we get a parent sort of write in with a query that we discuss and basically try to pull out all the reasons that it's a great opportunity. And then these Power Of episodes where we kind of like dive into something a little bit more specific. In this case, not so specific, very general. But this week we had the opportunity to speak on a parenting panel for Pom Pom Social here in Portland. And we're going to be kind of just doing our little speaking bit from that. It was so much fun.
Just riffing a little about it.
Yeah.
We thought it was a great topic.
It was fun.
The question that they asked us was, how do we balance how we were raised with the parent we would like to be when developing our own approach to parenting?
So the way we sort of took that to be interpreted was, how do we reconcile the way we were raised or our past with trying to more consciously create an approach to our parenting now? Is that sort of how you saw it too?
I guess I saw it as in like, we all, think about these approaches and philosophies, all these things swirl around
Mm-hmm.
conscious parenting, mindful parenting, attachment parenting,
Respectful parenting,
Respectful,
simplicity parenting.
Ass-kicking parenting, whatever, your flavor. And how do we combine these aspirational approaches that we read about and hear about with these, with the history that we are bringing into it from our own upbringing? So that was how the question was posed. But we kind of have our own take on that. Right?
Yeah, so even the phrase...
Why are you posed just like me right now?
I'm not copying you or anything. I just feel like you're really slumping. And
I don't feel slumpy.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do something
We
different.
should get like some seats so we can lean back.
I know. This is just... Or we should go against the wall, but then we'd be like in the plants. And...
Yeah, you guys, we're going to figure this out.
We're going to get better at this. So when we hear the phrase parenting approach, makes me want to cry, punch somebody, run away, barf, right? And I feel like most people that we know feel that same way. They're just like, parenting approach. But you were reading about even the history of parenting recently. Tell us a little bit about that.
Just that idea, was reading in this new book, Act Natural, and I'm blanking on who wrote it, but we'll put it in the show notes. It's awesome, but it's kind of the history of parenting. And the word parenting was coined, I think, 40 years ago.
Like only 40 years.
Yeah,
That's
like,
crazy.
After my husband was born, the word parenting happened. Before that,
what was it before that?
just child rearing. Like you raise vegetables in your garden, you raise kids in your home. It was not a thing. It was not a practice.
People were farmers who raised vegetables.
Yeah.
Kids don't deserve
Well, I don't think that parents did a lot of parenting for many, 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 many years. And I think only this century, if not just the last 40 years, 50 years, has parenting begun to shift into something a little more conscious, a little more intentional.
Yeah.
People are starting to be like, hey, how does my kid optimally develop? How can I have a kind of a moral sense of how to be treating this child? Not just to raise them better, but to just feel better. All of these things are very new. This is a new arena, this whole parenting thing.
Yeah, so how did we sort of come to find our own parenting approach, whatever it was? Our kids right now are 2, 3, 4, and 5, just FYI. And I feel like when we became parents, what was our parenting approach? How would you characterize it?
The official definition was winging it.
Yes.
Right? It was, we were overwhelmed with all the philosophies, all the information, the lack of sleep. we were crying ourselves to sleep sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
Drinking wine in the shower.
Still do that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wanting to strangle our husbands, wanting to drive to Mexico. Angry at the mother-in-law. Like, the list goes on. We've all been there. That was our winging it approach.
It was a hard time. It was a tough time.
Given love as we could, to ourselves and our babies. But it was tough. It was a tough time. And it doesn't feel good to not have a plan. I think that was the big thing we were beginning to realize.
Yeah. Well, but I think that... No, you go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. I think that when we have this idea of what a philosophy or an approach to parenting is, we think of it as this like other thing that we then integrate into our parenting. But I think we began to realize that we were living our parenting approach. It wasn't something separate from us, that it was us.
Whatever we were doing, that was our approach.
That was our approach. And if we wanted to change it, we needed to look at our approach. So I feel like instead of saying parenting approach and all these things, that's why this episode, the power of, is just called parenting, because it's about
it just is
parenting.
The approach, however we parent, that's our approach, that's our philosophy.
Yeah, it is. And if we want to, change our philosophy, then we got to change our approach. If we want to change our approach, maybe we have to change our philosophy. They're all kind of... Am I confusing you now? Okay, I'm going to stop talking.
Well, let's talk about... So if this is just parenting, if this is this thing that we're all doing, what are the influences? Where does that come from? Why are we parenting the way we parent?
Yeah, so you're saying that if we want to maybe change it or elevate it or go for something
where's it coming from?
We should probably consider what we're doing now.
Right.
I think there are a lot of influences on our parenting. There's the, our general upbringing, so how we were raised, the experiences we had with our parents growing up, our family history and legacy kind of moving into our experience. I think conventional wisdom, just the way you should parent, things people do as parents, just this kind of general wisdom is at play.
Also mainstream, like pop culture, things we see in TV shows and movies and read in books and just like what's out there. Sort of like how families and family dynamics and child rearing is portrayed.
Like a Modern Family.
Right, is an influence.
Sure.
What's another influence?
I would say our communities. So our friends, our neighbors,
in-laws.
The books we read. I guess that could be in mainstream culture, but I guess our community is more our interactions with real people in our lives. All of those things really play in a lot, but I feel like those influences in parenting, you can kind of split them down the middle into two categories. Conscious influences and unconscious influences. And I feel like this is where the idea of parenting and the parenting approach gets really interesting. I feel like the way that we parent is influenced by our own hand. When we're parenting consciously, I'm deciding to do this, I'm not wanting to do that. And then it's also our parenting is influenced by an invisible hand that is guiding us to do this or not do this, that we're not even necessarily realizing.
So what are some examples? Some of our conscious influences, so things that we're aware of, things that we're doing intentionally, decisions we're making, some based on research, some based on those more obvious things. Like what? Like sharing dinner at the table as a family. That's something that we have set some intention about, that we've seen before or experienced before, and we like it, we're going to do it.
Right.
What else?
Being very careful with how gentle we are with brushing our daughter's hair, because our mom would brush our hair a little bit harder when we were younger, and we remember that, and it didn't feel that great.
So that's a conscious choice we're making. Right. About the way we interact with our kids.
Or, we live in the Pacific Northwest, and we see a lot of families and kids and ads and things about going outside and doing things outside with your kids and as a family. And so that's a value of ours, a conscious parenting choice that we've made based on not our upbringing necessarily or what we see on TV, but in our community, Yeah.
And then what are some examples of the more unconscious influences or that invisible hand? Those are the tough ones because
we don't know.
Unconscious. Yeah. So these are ones that we've come to kind of like, or examples we've come to sort of understand about our own parenting.
For example, the mother load. So realizing, why is it that I'm in charge of so many other little things about parenting and about my kids than my husband is? why is this happening? This isn't a conscious decision I've made or that he's made, but somehow it's happening to us.
This is like a cultural thing that's going on.
Right.
Why is this happening?
What is this about?
Yeah.
That's another one.
Just the impulse that we need to be stern or angry in order to make a point to our kids. Like, where does that come from? That expectation that, like, they won't understand unless I have a big booming voice and big eyes and hands on hips and really, spook them a little bit about it.
That didn't come from our upbringing.
It didn't.
Yeah.
So why is that ingrained in us?
Yeah.
Like that impulse, that instinct,
Sure.
And I think that ones like that are about instinct. They're about reaction. They're about that invisible hand that's guiding us, you know?
I think, though, that, we started to realize that a lot of our challenging experiences in parenting were about not those conscious things, because the conscious things we knew we were able to change if they weren't working.
Most of them were
for us.
positive.
They were. Most of those conscious things were choices we made to elevate us. And most of the challenges we had in parenting involved our parenting very unconsciously, reactively, instinctually. And why is that?
But we're like, why should we only be parenting intentionally during the good times? What about those hard times? Why don't we have a game plan? Why don't we have some intention? Why don't we have some awareness of this invisible hand that's guiding us and where it came from and where what it is and if we want it at all.
Yeah.
So I think those started becoming the questions that we were asking. And then what happened? We sort of gave ourselves permission.
Yeah.
Which we now extend to you to begin asking yourself those hard questions.
And to be taking control of your own parenting approach. I think that, as I said earlier, it's so easy to either feel this pressure to live up to this idealized parenting approach of somebody else's.
You seriously almost smack me in the face every time.
Sorry, I love you. To feel the pressure to live up to it, or being this pressure and kind of issue of being dragged down by your past, by some other things, triggers and different things like that. And what we're talking about here is this permission to begin your own philosophy.
And to feel empowered by that philosophy, not disempowered by someone else's.
Right.
Yeah.
Be saying, I want to just use my hand to guide my actions and decisions. And obviously we can't be consciously doing everything in our lives. There's so many things about our brains and our behavior that we will never understand. But in those tough moments, when we notice something doesn't feel right, we're not quite hitting the mark here.
Feeling aligned.
Yes, something doesn't feel aligned or together, then maybe that's that invisible hand that is guiding us that we don't need.
Yeah. I think we just think of it as a magical opportunity and a power to not just rewrite these inherited philosophies from hundreds of years ago or even just from our own childhood, but to consciously write something that we want to do in a way that we want to be living.
Yeah, to rewrite our family legacy. We don't have to live the inherited legacy of parenting that has happened over the years if it doesn't jive with us. Yeah, or the patriarchy that literally has this hierarchical structure.
You did it.
Thanks. In all of our institutions, including our homes. But how do we go about that? Deciding to parent more consciously and intentionally.
That's hard, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of vulnerability.
We got to sell them on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's so fun, you guys. I think we've basically come to understand and embrace 3 ways to feel empowered to do that asking. Yeah. That asking of why, especially in those hard times, why.
Yeah, to better understand, to take that unconscious stuff and raise it to a level of consciousness, we have to be looking at what we're doing and asking the question why.
And then we can say, do we want it? No. Do we want this? Yeah. Do we want that?
But as you said, Kelty, that's really scary. That's hard. It's challenging.
Yeah.
But we want to talk about 3 ways that can help ease us into,
learning, leaning in, loving.
The L's. I was like, what are those L's? Learning, leaning in, and loving. Yeah. That can help move us through that why to get to the answers for ourselves, because our parenting approach should be about our answers and that authentic alignment.
And just the way to consciously integrate that into our parenting experience. So, number 1, we're not done yet.
Right. You may have heard us talk about this one before.
It's one of our empowerments.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. But I guess we believe in progress, not perfection. That's kind of the main deal with it. And we hope that and what it's done for us is take the pressure off and just give us permission to grow. Once we realize we're not done yet, we shouldn't have it all figured out, we shouldn't have all the answers, then we can be like, let's do this.
And that allows us to see our kids, not bringing out the worst in us, but inviting us and giving us the opportunity to become our best selves.
So that we can grow up alongside them with every challenge that we experience.
And see that you and I talk a lot of times about that mirror that our kids hold up to us of all of our like worst shit or most vulnerable skills. And, allowing that, looking ourselves in the eye and saying, I'm in. Count me in. I'm ready to show up and grow up.
Yeah, I love that. So another good way to engage with that why and sort of start building our approach is another one of our empowerments as well. The hard stuff's the good stuff. So
we do it in other areas of our lives.
We do it all the time. Like, have you ever experienced a challenge and overcome it and felt really good, like you learned and you're really proud of yourself and you really can see that you've gone through it and you could see grown better for it?
And you could see the value in the challenge, therefore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
that's how we want to see our parenting, right? Yeah. We want alignment of our current dreams in the future and our current day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And the only way we're going to get that alignment is by leaning into that hard shit.
Yeah, and seeing every challenge that we have as having inherent value and worth. And being, like you said, that opportunity to build brains and skills and connection with our kids.
Yeah, because when we can, look at the big feelings, lean into the scary stuff, do all those things, we are bravely saying, bring it on. And that's allowing us to ask that why and to get those answers for ourselves, to cultivate that personal parenting approach.
Yeah, and that happens by trusting and leaning into those things that make us uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of the biggest one. And then the third step, to embracing in order to empower us to kind of parent and more intentionally, is we're better together.
I like this one.
Yeah, this is a really big one.
I think that it's so easy to see parenting as this solitary practice. And what we're trying to do at UpBringing is to see it as a collective movement, as a collaborative experience where parents need parents and parents need people and people need parents and we all need each other.
And the more conscious we are about the influences, the easier we can stop being competitive, stop comparing, stop judging, all of those things.
Yeah, none of that is helping any of us. So, leaning in vulnerably, holding each other lovingly, celebrating what we have in common and what our differences are is going to do a really big job in enriching and strengthening our collective bond of womanhood, our parenthood in general.
Yeah.
All those
things. And I
things.
think that takes us looking at ourselves, looking at our partners, looking at the other parents and caregivers and people who spend time with kids around us and saying, I see you. And really wanting to hear their truth and wanting to hear their struggles and bravely sharing your own. That's how we all elevate.
So those are the three things. We're not done yet. The hard stuff's the good stuff. We're better together. These are three ideas and kind of acknowledgments that we're working on and giving ourselves so that we feel permission to resist what's been typically done, to these ideas that we have to fix behavior, that we have to parent kids a certain way, that we have to do things a certain way.
And resisting that inherited invisible hand that's guiding so many of our actions, and that's really scary and hard to look at first, but gets easier.
Yeah, I think that these three things, what we're hoping that they do for us has been to cultivate that inner voice of what really matters to us. There's no right way to do this. There's just our own way to do it.
And when we're listening to that inner voice, to then be able to create a personal, ever-evolving, ever-changing and growing as we are approach to parenting. I
like that idea of seriously, fuck the approaches that are disconnected from us, that are shamey, that don't feel good,
that are disempowering,
that are rigid, that are dogmatic. Those are all disempowering things. And the beauty in cultivating our own approach is that it's personalized, that it's fluid and ever changing, that it gives us grace and is really uniquely suited to us and can move with us through time. So that's the idea here, is helping us all find those things. So.
And that's going to help our kids search for that same intention in their own lives, in whatever they're doing, you know?
Yeah. So, I don't know, upbringing, we just want you to join us. As we said at the beginning, it's about getting uncomfortable with the most uncomfortable parts of parenting. And it's about challenging our ways of thinking. It's about challenging our ways of doing things.
And it's about challenging the past and tradition and all these shoulds. That
bunch of old white men that make us do shit that we don't even realize.
Totally.
Yeah. I think I love that, what is universal about this, one size fits all kind of thing, is let's just keep asking why, so that we can learn and lean in. Yes, and love.
Yeah.
That's what's going to get us.
And it's so that we can live more joyously and parent more joyously and more authentically and more productively, ultimately.
Yeah. So I don't know if any of this made sense to you guys, but, I hope it did. And at least we're in. And we believe we're bringing it on. And we see you. And I see you. Hopefully this can just kind of make this whole parenting thing and parenting approach feel, again, a little more approachable, a little more accessible, a little more possible and less scary.
And we're grateful that you're here, because it gives us the support that we're not alone on this crazy adventure.
Right.
Also.
We don't know it all. We're all learning. We're all growing up together.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Send us your DMs, your notes, your thoughts. What are we leaving out? What works for you? What's worked for you in cultivating your own parenting philosophy and approach. Yeah, we're interested. We care about you. Cheers. How do we end this so cheesy?
I don't know. Let's do it again.
Let's do one final ending. We love you.
We love you. Keep coming back. Okay. Well, no, let's do another one.
Okay.
Happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
Talk to you soon.
Go for it.
See you next Friday. Watch your foot.
Oh, my foot.
You're going to swing it around.
No, I'm not going to swing it around. I'm very careful.
Drinky poo.
Okay. Center.
Close enough. Can we make it bigger? Or is that bad?
That's what she said.